make sure that this is muted.
Judge, I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
Yes, you're invisible.
Ah, yoink.
There he is. That's amazing, Judge.
It's quite a trick.
I'm impressed.
Thin air.
I don't know. If every time I close it, it closes the camera or what, but every time I close it, I have to remember to open the camera shutter again. All right, let's get going. We're going to be on the record in two cases, those being 2020 CR826 and 2015 CR922, both captioned State of Kansas versus Nicodemus Gunter. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
May it please the court, Christopher Schneider, Assistant District Attorney, appears on behalf of the state of Kansas.
May it please the court, the defendant appears via Zoom with the counsel, Jeffrey Leiker, via Zoom.
All right, we are here in the 15 case. It's a revo, but I understand that it will be taken care of as part of the plea in the 2020 case, and we'll get to that after we go through the plea. Mr. Gunter, we're going to go through your plea. To do that, I'm going to have to ask you a bunch of questions, okay? I'm going to need you to answer out loud, and if you have any problem understanding what I'm asking you, you just tell me that, and we'll talk about it until we're sure that we're talking about the same thing, okay? I'm not sure if they have you muted. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. All right. Also, if before you answer any question, you want to talk to Mr. Leiker in private, I can put you in what's called a breakout room and you can talk to him without the rest of us there. You just tell me that, okay?
Okay.
right.
That's what I want to do.
You want to do that right now?
Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second and I will set it up. There you go, accept.
Judge, do you have a proposed plea petition?
I do.
Can you email that to me?
Sure. I thought he would have emailed it to you before he did me. There you go.
Thank you, Judge.
Yep.
No, there's- That appears accurate, Judge.
Okay.
I will while we're waiting, let me see if I can sign that and send it back to you. Family doing well, Judge?
Yeah. I'm as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to take my kid out of school and take her over for her second vaccination shot.
Yes, good.
Mm-hmm. She'll be going off to college next semester, so
Is she's still going to Iowa State?
Yep.
Good. That's neat. Yes, my daughter, my son has got his first one about a week and a half ago up in North Dakota. And my daughter is scheduled for her first one Thursday back in Indiana.
Good, good.
And I had to, she ended up being home for about 5 weeks. She came home for about 3 weeks. And then her roommate tested positive for COVID. So she stayed an extra 2. So she drove back yesterday.
All right. Mr. Liker, are we ready to go forward?
I think so. He and I went over this a little while ago, and I think he just wanted a little bit of a refresher. So we're good, Judge.
All right. Well, to take this up, Mr. Gunter, I need to have you sworn in. So if you would raise your right hand, my court reporter will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
You can go ahead and put your hand down. Thanks.
Judge,
Yes.
for the record, I just emailed to you the plea petition that I signed.
Okay.
I electronically signed.
All right. Mr. Gunter, how far did you end up going in school?
9th grade.
Do you read and write okay?
Yes.
All right. As you sit here, I know you're in custody, but are you under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or prescription medicine that might cloud your mind or keep you from knowing what you're doing today?
No.
All right. You feel like your mind's clear?
Yes.
Do you know what you're charged with?
Yes.
You know you don't have to change your plea from one of not guilty to guilty. If you wanted to maintain your not guilty plea, you would have an absolute right to a jury trial on those charges. At that trial, the state would have to put on enough evidence to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You wouldn't have to prove anything yourself. Mr. Liker would assist you throughout that trial. He could cross-examine and confront all of the state's witnesses, challenge their evidence. If you wanted him to call witnesses, he could do that. And if they didn't want to come to court, he could use the subpoena power of the court to make them come to court. At that trial, you would have a right to testify, but you'd also have a right not to testify. And if you decided not to take the stand, that couldn't be used against you. In other words, the prosecutor couldn't get up and argue, well, you all should convict him because he didn't get up and tell you his side. Do you understand all those rights?
Yes.
All right. And if we had that trial, at the end of it, you were convicted, you would have the right to appeal that conviction to the appellate courts. If you didn't have money to do that, a lawyer would be appointed to do it for you. You understand that as well?
Yes.
Now, if you decide to enter into this plea and I accept that, you're going to be giving up all of those rights. There's not going to be a trial of any kind. You understand that?
Yes.
Judge.
All right. Yes.
Would the court also address preliminary hearing rights?
Oh, have we not had that yet?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Gunter, separate from that jury trial that I just went over, you'd have a right to a preliminary hearing. That's basically a hearing in front of a judge before trial to see if there's enough evidence to go forward with a trial or if there's probable cause. If we're going to enter into this plea today, there's no reason to really have that, but you have that right. Do you want to give up that right and go forward with this plea today?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Liker, do you advise your client to so do?
Yes, Judge, I do.
All right. And Mr. Schneider, on behalf of the state, do you also waive prelim?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I'll find both parties have waived prelim, bind the defendant over for trial, and we'll go forward with this plea. Waive formal reading, I assume, Mr. Liker.
At this time, Judge, we would waive formal reading and enter a plea of not guilty.
All right. Okay. So we went through all those rights. Let me now pull up my copy of the plea petition that I received from your attorney. Can you see that, Mr. Gunter?
Yes.
Does this look like the plea petition that Mr. Liker went over with you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm trying to get it to cooperate here and move for me, but it's not doing so.
It's moving now,
What
Judge.
I just pulled up here is what we call the plea agreement. I'm going to read that to you and make sure that we are all on the same page here. Says that you're going to be pleading guilty to count 1 of the amended information. That charges you with violation of the Offender Registration Act, which is a severity level 5 person felony. All the other counts are going to be dismissed. The parties are going to agree to recommend closure of the 2015 case in which you're on probation and agree to recommend a downward durational departure to 48 months in this case. No other departures will be requested. Is that your understanding of the entire plea agreement, Mr. Gunter?
Yes.
Has anybody promised you anything else to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
All right. Has anybody placed any force or threats against you to make you plead guilty today?
No.
All right. Gentlemen, what do you expect Mr. Gunter's criminal history score is going to be?
I
I-
believe,
I think he's going to be a D, Your Honor.
I agree.
All right. So I'm sure Mr. Liker went over with you those sentencing guidelines where he finds the level, which is a 5 of this offense, and he goes across to the criminal history D to advise you what the standard sentences are in this case. We won't know for certain what your criminal history score is until we get a pre-sentence investigation and everybody's heard on that. So what I have to do today is just assume for today's hearing only that you have the very worst possible criminal history so that I can advise you of what the maximum that anybody could get for this crime is. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. So as it shows here in your petition, it is correct that the maximum sentence on this level 5 would be 136 months and a fine of $300,000 with a post-release supervision period of 24 months. Do you understand that that is the maximum in this case?
Yes.
All right. Furthermore, the parties talk about here recommending a particular sentence. In fact, what they're talking about is a downward durational departure. I'm going to listen very closely, Mr. Gunter, to what everybody has to say about sentencing. But you understand that I'm not a party to any agreement, and I can give you any sentence that the law allows me to. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Gunter, do you have any questions for me about anything that we've gone over today?
No, I don't.
And knowing all this, do you still want to go forward with this plea?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Liker, do you know any legal reason why your client should not plead guilty?
I do not.
All right. Then I'm going to ask you, Mr. Gunter, as to count 1 of the amended information charging you with violation of the Offender Registration Act, a severity level 5 person felony, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
All right. I want you to listen closely because I'm going to ask the state to tell me what they think the evidence would be in this case. When they're done, I'm going to ask you if that's what happened, okay? Mr.
Okay.
Schneider.
Judge, if evidence were to be presented, it would show that on November 20th, 2012, the defendant was adjudicated to be a juvenile offender for having committed what, if he were an adult, would be the crime of aggravated indecent abuse with a child in Butler County District Court, case number 12 JV 158. As a result of that conviction, he's required to register as an offender. Judge, evidence would also show that the defendant was convicted in this court in case number 2015CR922 of violating of failing to register as an offender as required by the statute. Judge, he's required to register in the month of his birth and every 3, 6, and 9 months thereafter. His date of birth is May 8th, 1997. Thus, he's required to register in May, August, November, and February. And Judge, during the month of May of 2020, while a resident of Wyandotte County, Mr. Gunter failed to register.
Mr. Gunter, is that what happened?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I will find the defendant has freely, voluntarily, and intelligently entered into this plea. He knows the nature of the consequences and the consequences of the plea. The state has provided a sufficient factual basis for a finding of guilt, and I will in fact find that he is guilty of count 1 of the amended information, violation of the Offender Registration Act, severity level 5, person felony. Pursuant to the plea agreement, all other counts are dismissed, as well as case number 2015 CR 922 is closed unsuccessfully. I'm going to order a pre-sentence investigation be conducted and continue sentencing pending receipt of that. I just received an email from my assistant that says we're available May 10th at, it says Q0, but I'm assuming that means 10 a.m. Mr. Liker, May 10th at 10, are you available?
I'm in juvenile that morning, Judge.
All right. How about May 21st at 11?
Sure.
No, Judge, I have care and treatment at 11.
All right, May 21st at 1 p.m.
Sure.
Yes, Judge.
All right, that's when we'll come back for sentencing, May 21st at 1 p.m. Other things for our record today.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All righty, thank you, everybody. Mr. Gunter, we'll see you here in a couple of weeks, okay?
Okay.
We're adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.